All right, folks, welcome back to the show right here on KHBM 93.7 FM. And you guys have heard about it all week long. I haven't shut up about it all week long. I'm very excited about this because right now we're being joined on the program by a former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. A man who has won numerous championships and accolades in the world of professional wrestling, wrestled for almost 20 years now, all over the country. Done a great job of making a name for himself, especially over the last couple of years. On January 24th, he'll have an opportunity to add to that list of accomplishments on pay-per-view at NWA Hard Times to become an NWA World Television Champion. And coming up tomorrow in North Little Rock, he'll be going one-on-one with Harry Smith, who is now known as Davey Boy Smith Jr., the son of the British Bulldog. He's a guy known as the Perfect Storm, and he's Tim Storm. Tim, how are you this morning, man?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on. As you know, and some people probably know, Arkansas is home for me. I grew up in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and you're just a short drive away. And I actually spent quite a bit of time down there, and actually thought about going to college down there for a little bit. So I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk about what I'm passionate about, what I like to do, and I appreciate you having me on.
Man, it's a great honor. I'm very excited about it. A lot of my friends know that whenever I took this position here with my own show last year, one of the things I talked about with my friends was I wanted Tim Storm on my show because I know you're around here quite a bit, and you're a hometown boy. I mean, you're our claim to fame now because you're a former NWA World Champion.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I really, Arkansas will always be home for me, always. My mom is still there. I've got a lot of family there, and I still get there as much as I can. Not as much as Mom wants me to ever, no matter how much I'm there. But it'll always be home. And if I have done anything to honor Arkansas and have something where people can look to as a positive, I'm 100% with that. And man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to me.
Well, and we're going to talk about Mama Storm. Trust me. Because that's something that we don't need to skip over that this morning. That's a great thing. But take me back to when you were a kid, growing up in Pine Bluff. What's a day in the life like for 12-year-old baby Storm? I mean, did you always know you were going to be a pro wrestler? Was that always the dream?
I don't know. I don't know that I knew. As a 12, 13-year-old, growing up in Central Arkansas, there was wrestling on TV, for me at least, 3 times every Saturday. I got, the Memphis wrestling in the morning, so I got Lawler and Dundee and the Boogie Woogie Man and all those Kamala and all those guys that came out of there. And then in the afternoon, I got Georgia Championship Wrestling on the Superstation, and that was the NWA. And then at night, I got the Sportatorium. I got World Class. That's the Von Erichs and the Freebirds. And so three times on Saturdays, on a normal Saturday, I knew what I was going to be watching and when I was going to be there. And, I won't say that there wasn't a little Scooby-Doo or whatever in there in between, but that was a pretty normal Saturday for me. And the big, like, it's very clear in my mind especially when like the Mid-South Wrestling would come through to the Pine Bluff Convention Center. I knew that I could usually find a friend from school that was going to go. We have our parents drop us off, and it's something that always interested me. Always something that fascinated me. I thought NWA was, I thought Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, the Four Horsemen, all of those I thought was the greatest thing ever, and it just captured my imagination. And I can remember a match or a show at the Pine Bluff Convention Center, and I can tell you some of the matches on there, but I know the main event that night was Andre the Giant against Ken Patera.
Wow.
And I've told the story, but at the back in that day, was that the 70s and then I guess early 80s, the way the ring was set up is set up in the middle of the convention center, and then hanging over the ring was one light. It's called a kettle light, and the rest of the arena was dark. And the finish of the main event of that night, Andre picked up Ken Patera for a body slam, and his feet hit that light. And the light started swinging back and forth, and I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
That is awesome.
And afterwards, I snuck into the ring. I think we got our, completely unintentionally, I'm sure, but the parents' pickup time was a little later than it should have been, and we stayed inside, and I snuck into the ring and climbed up on the second rope and raised my arms, and I thought, I would love to do this someday.
Well, it's funny you mention that because the first time I met you was at the Pine Bluff Convention Center back in 2012, and that night was kind of special for me, too. I paid $20 to take a picture with Sonny in the middle of the ring.
Right.
A lot of people out there remember Sonny. The only reason I did that was so that I could step into the ring for the first time. I wanted to feel those ropes and feel that canvas under my feet and everything. But I took a picture with you that night, and if I can find it, I'm going to post it up later, and I'll send it to you. But
please do.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to me. I think that was traditional championship wrestling, and I want to say we came to the convention center at least twice, maybe 3 times. But wrestling in the Pine Bluff Convention Center for me was a highlight. To walk through the entrance that I saw all of those guys walk through, and I could even remember walking around. I didn't have the expensive seats, but I walked around at the top, and you could kind of look over the rail and see the guys standing back there. And to walk through that entrance and be in a match at the place that I grew up watching in front of a lot of people, and at the time I think I was the TCW champion, and I wrestled Matt Bourne, and we made it. They made a big deal out of it coming home, coming out on a Harley. I mean, it was. And Matt Bourne, for wrestling fans, is Doink the Clown.
Yeah, the original Doink the Clown.
Yeah, the Doink the Clown. Yeah, Matt's no longer with us, and I literally miss him every day. But that was a big night for me. So the night that you stepped in the ring, and got to feel that was a big night for me too.
Yeah, it was an awesome night. I'll never forget it. It was my second show that I ever got to go to. And, I had just gotten a job, so I was able to actually buy my own tickets. So
I completely get that. I definitely get that.
So you talked about winning the TCW heavyweight title. You won it, I believe, 5 times or something like that. You're the face of that company, which is, it's slowly kind of morphed into what is now CWA wrestling here in Arkansas. And you're going to be wrestling Davey Boy Smith Jr. coming up tomorrow in North Little Rock at the Maumelle Event Center. What does that match mean to you? Because Davey Boy Smith Jr. used to be David Hart Smith in the WWE. He's a former tag team champion there. He's a tag team champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He just recently left New Japan. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. So,
and here's the thing with him is, and this will be the first singles match we've ever had. In most cases, when I step in the ring, I know that I'm probably going to be the bigger guy, the stronger guy, and the more experienced guy. And that's kind of my, especially as I get older, that has become kind of the thing I can count on and as an advantage. And the truth is with him, he's bigger than I am. He may be stronger than I am, and he's got a ton of experience, especially internationally in New Japan and New York and everywhere else. So it's a very, very, I won't even say unique is the right word. It is going to be a huge challenge. And people who don't know, he absolutely is the son of, Davey Boy Smith and, the British Bulldog. But Davey Boy was probably 5'10" or 5'11", and, he's every bit of 6'4", maybe closer to 6'5". He teamed with a guy that I've wrestled a bunch of times, Lance Archer, Lance Floyd. Man, it's going to be a challenge. He's the real deal. He is as legitimate as you can get, and I don't even mean in his pedigree. What he does training for fun is MMA and jiu-jitsu, and he is legitimate in every sense of the word. So it's gonna be a challenge. I don't ever step in the ring and not believe that I'm going to win. I believe I'm gonna beat him. I don't know how. It is going to be a battle, and I know that going in, and I've been preparing for it.
Well, it's going to be a great match, and I can't wait to see it. It's the one I'm looking forward to the most coming up tomorrow. Of course, Davey Boy Smith Jr., like you said, he's legit. There's videos you can find online of him literally wrestling in the legendary dungeon, Stu Hart's dungeon. That's his grandfather. He was wrestling there when he was a kid. He's been, he was bred into this business. And so definitely, I can't think of anyone else that you've ever faced with that kind of experience or that kind of pedigree in wrestling.
No, and I've wrestled, I literally have wrestled the top names in the business, and I don't know that I've ever seen this combination. man, I don't know. It's not scary because I've done this for almost 25 years and I've wrestled a lot of incredibly talented people. But this is a combination that is, it's unique. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I guess in a lot of cases you never know until you get in the ring with that guy and kind of start seeing how you match up in different areas. I don't ever consider myself a technical wrestler. I'm not going to go in there and have a technical match. I consider myself more of a fighter and a brawler. And if I try to get technical with him, I'll probably get beat. So I'm just going to have to see what I can find that's going to work.
Well, the perfect storm always finds its way, and coming up next Friday, you're going to find your way to Atlanta, Georgia, where you'll crown a new NWA World's TV Champion at the NWA pay-per-view event, Hard Times. Now, Tim, you won the NWA World's title back in 2016. Held that title for 414 days. And that's when you and Nick Aldis began this incredible journey that you're on right now. What I want to ask you is your name is now attached to Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Barry Windham, Sting, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and, I mean, we've all heard the list more times than we can all count. And what I want to know is, what does it mean to you to have that NWA World title under your name now on any profile, any biography? I mean, that's who you are now, former NWA World's Champion Tim Storm.
Yeah, if there's the only thing that I would even remotely wish I could take away was that word former. But here's the thing. It's like, growing up watching all of those guys that you just named. I won't say that I ever dreamed big enough to say that growing up in Pine Bluff that my goal was to be the NWA World's Champion. I never dreamed that big. And I also would be really careful for myself to say that, well, let me just start it with this. When I won that title, I knew one thing. I knew that they couldn't take my name off that list with those guys, and that was a benchmark for me. That I've for 400-something days, I cut the promo saying this was my mountaintop, that it was not going to get any higher, and that's an absolute legitimate statement. And I've had people in different media and personally that said, "Oh, come on, man! If so and so called you and offered you this, that'd be bigger." There's nothing bigger for me. So the night that I won that was an incredibly emotional night for the exact reason you just said. When you win a title like that in any organization, but especially the one that is the most prestigious title in the history of wrestling, you don't know how long you're going to hold it. But I knew my name was going to go over with those guys. And, a different time, a different, I don't want to say a different style of wrestling, but, I want to say that their workload and the way they had to travel and do those things was a whole lot more difficult than probably what I had to do. And I would never compare myself in skill or any of those areas with those names, because those are the people that I watched and patterned myself after and wanted to be. But it literally was the highlight of my wrestling career. I mean, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I've got family, so there are a lot of things that mean more to me. But in my wrestling life, which is a big part of my life, there's nothing that will ever beat that, and that was 100% the highlight of my